What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and the life you secretly dream of is one practice? Not a book, not a seminar, not some guru advice, but a simple shift you can make today that could flip your financial reality on its head. And no, this isn't a feel-good speech. This is a system, a wake-up protocol. At the end of this video, I'll give you the exact practice that Jim Rohn shared with his closest circle. The kind of thing that doesn't just motivate you, it rewires you. But if you skip ahead or click away, you'll miss the only part that actually works. The 97% always want quick inspiration. The 3% stay to reprogram their lives. So the choice is yours. But if you're tired of chasing dollars, living paycheck to paycheck, and watching others build wealth while you scroll in silence, then breathe. And stay with me. Because the next 20 minutes could be the most expensive 20 minutes you'll ever ignore, or the most profitable ones you'll ever spend. You see, most people spend their lives chasing money like it's some golden finish line, waiting somewhere far ahead if they just hustle hard enough. But what if I told you wealth isn't at the end of the road? It's how you walk it. It's not in your bank balance. It's in your behavior, your mindset, your daily choices, especially the ones nobody sees. You want to know the real difference between the broke and the wealthy? It's not income. It's not luck. It's not even education or connections. It's perspective. The 3% see the world through a different lens, while the 97% obsess over price tags, bills, and how much I make. The 3% ask, what does this cost me in freedom, in time, in future opportunities? They've stopped chasing money and started creating systems that attract it. And before you roll your eyes and say, yeah, right, let me remind you of something Jim Rohn used to say. Success is something you attract by the person you become. That line right there changed my entire view on wealth. Because if you want more money, you don't chase money. You chase growth. You chase discipline. You chase becoming the kind of person who no longer settles for survival mode. Wealth is not an event. It's a process, a way of thinking before it becomes a way of living. Let me give you the first law the 3% live by. The one habit that flips everything. It's not glamorous. It won't trend on TikTok. But it's why the wealthy stay wealthy. They pay themselves first, before the rent, before the groceries, before the IRS or the landlord or the Friday night pizza. They pay their future self, even if it's just a few dollars, even if it feels like nothing. Now you might say, I can't afford to save. I barely make enough to survive. But here's the truth. It's not about how much you make. It's about what you do with what you keep. Let me tell you a story. I was broke. Sitting at a plastic table in a studio apartment I could barely afford. Bills on one side, ramen on the other. And I remember saying to my mentor, I'll save when I make more. He looked at me and said something I'll never forget. If you don't start now, you won't start then. Because wealth isn't a number, it's a habit. So I started saving $1 out of every $10. That's it. No excuses, no magic trick, just a decision. And that one act, that small, almost invisible habit, turned me from a servant of money into its master. Because here's what most people don't understand. Every dollar you save is a soldier. You can either send it out to fight for your freedom or spend it chasing temporary pleasure and wonder why nothing changes. The broke ask, where did all my money go? The wealthy tell every dollar exactly where to go. And let me be clear, paying yourself first isn't selfish. It's responsible. It's leadership. It's saying my future is more important than another impulse purchase. My freedom is worth more than impressing people who don't even care. So the question is, will you keep funding everyone else's dream or finally start funding your own? Here's a brutal truth. Most people stay broke not because they don't earn enough, but because they have no idea where their money goes. It slips through their fingers like sand. And when the bank account hits zero, they shrug and say, I guess I just had too many expenses this month. Guessing is the strategy of the 97%, but clarity is the weapon of the 3%. Let me ask you something real. If you can't tell me where your last $500 went, not in general, but in exact detail, you're not in control. You're drifting. And drifting doesn't lead to freedom. It leads to debt, stress, and regret. You wouldn't run a business without a budget, right? So why are you running your life that way? When I finally got serious, I didn't download 5 apps or hire a financial advisor. I grabbed a $1 notebook and wrote down 3 things every week. What I earned, what I spent, what I saved or invested. Was it uncomfortable? Absolutely. There were days I hated what I saw. Subscriptions I forgot. Habits I didn't notice. $7 coffees that felt deserved, but added up to $200 a month. But you know what Jim Rohn taught me? What gets measured gets improved. And it was true. The act of tracking alone changed my behavior. Not overnight, but gradually. My brain stopped reacting and started planning. I didn't just hope things would be different. I had data, and data is power. Tracking your money isn't about obsession. It's about ownership. It's not about restriction. It's about direction. Most people walk around financially blindfolded, spending emotionally and hoping logically. But if you want to build real wealth, you need to open your eyes and face the truth. Start small. Use paper, a spreadsheet, an app. It doesn't matter. Just start. Track your income, your spending, your progress. Because if you don't know where your money's going, how will you ever tell it where to go? Let me say something that might sting a little. Hard work is not the answer. Because if it was, every nurse, every teacher, every construction worker, they'd all be millionaires by now. But they're not. Because the marketplace doesn't reward effort, it rewards value. I learned this the hard way. Early in my career, I was working 60+ hours a week, grinding, hustling, dragging myself home just to do it all again the next day. And I remember thinking if I just work harder, eventually I'll get ahead. But I wasn't getting ahead. I was getting exhausted. And then someone said something that changed everything. People don't pay you for time. They pay you for results, for impact, for what you can do that others can't. That hit me like a truck, because suddenly I realized I wasn't being underpaid. I was being undervalued. And the only person who could fix that was me. So I stopped chasing overtime, and I started chasing skills, sales, communication, leadership, financial literacy, digital tools, public speaking. Things they never taught in school, but the marketplace pays a premium for. And you know what? My income started growing. Not because I worked more, but because I became more. See, every hour you spend developing a skill, that's like building a new engine inside you. The more powerful the engine, the faster you move and the farther you go. The 97% keep trading time for money. The 3% invest time into becoming irreplaceable. So if you're stuck in the cycle of working harder and earning the same, don't ask how to grind more. Ask, what skill can I develop that makes me too valuable to ignore? Because money doesn't chase effort, it chases excellence. Let's be honest, most people don't fail financially because they're lazy. They fail because they rely on motivation. And motivation, it's a slippery, unreliable thing. One day you're fired up to save. The next day, your car breaks down, it's someone's birthday, and the budget disappears. Life happens, emotions swing, and the money leaks out. But here's what the 3% do differently. They don't rely on feelings. They rely on systems. They know that discipline fades, but systems never skip a day. I remember the first time I set up an automatic transfer. $50 from every paycheck into a separate savings account I couldn't touch easily. It felt small, pointless even, but guess what? 6 months later, that tiny habit had grown into something real. Not just in dollars, but in belief, because I saw that my future wasn't about willpower, it was about automation. Wealth isn't built in heroic moments. It's built in quiet, repetitive actions done without fail. That's why the 3% automate everything they can. Automatic savings, automatic investments, automatic bill payments, budget tracking with apps, even reminders to review their goals weekly. Think of it like a farmer. He doesn't dig up the seed every day to check it. He plants it, waters it, and lets time and consistency do the work. That's what automation is. It's planting financial seeds every week, every month, without overthinking, overworking, or overstressing. And if you think automation is only for people who make 6 figures, wrong. It's because they automate that they eventually start making 6 figures. Systems create structure. Structure creates momentum, and momentum builds wealth, even when you're tired, distracted, or doubting yourself. So stop relying on trying harder. That's the broke man's plan. Build systems that carry you on the days you don't feel like showing up. Because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Let me ask you something. What if the reason you're not rich yet is because you're waiting for something big to happen? A promotion, a raise, a breakthrough, a lucky break. But here's the truth. Wealth is not made in big moments. It's built in small, boring, invisible ones. The wealthy don't wait for the lottery. They create a ritual. They read 10 pages of a book on money every day. They review their goals every morning. They invest a small amount every payday, even if it's just $20. They cut one unnecessary expense per week. They check their financial dashboard on Sundays like other people check fantasy football scores. Tiny, almost laughable habits, but done consistently, they change everything. Jim Rohn once said, "Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every day." Let that sink in. A few simple disciplines. Not genius, not $1 million idea, just consistency. But you know what most people do? They underestimate the small. They think, what difference does $5 saved today make? What's the point of reviewing goals again? One coffee won't hurt. And they're right. Once won't hurt, but once becomes twice, and twice becomes a habit, and habits shape futures. Wealthy people treat those micro decisions like code, financial code they run every day to program their future. It's not sexy, it's not flashy, but it's powerful. Because over time, those tiny acts compound, not just financially, but mentally. They build a mindset, a rhythm, a sense of control. When I started doing this, I didn't feel rich. I didn't look rich, but I felt something shift. I wasn't drifting anymore. I was building. So don't wait for massive action. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the right time. Pick one micro habit, do it daily. Watch what happens. Because in the world of wealth, small is the new secret weapon. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine your entire financial life is standing on a one-legged stool. Your job, that's it. One paycheck, one employer, one source. Now imagine a storm hits, layoffs, recession, health issues. What happens? You fall. Hard. That's the reality for most people. They build their lives on a single income stream and hope the wind doesn't blow. But the 3%? They don't hope. They diversify. They know wealth isn't just about making money. It's about building pillars that hold you up no matter what. Job income is one, but then comes a side hustle. Investments, royalties or passive income, digital assets, real estate, a monetized skill. Every new stream is another leg under your table. The more legs, the more stable. The more stable, the more confident. And the more confident you are, the better decisions you make. You don't need to launch 5 businesses tomorrow. Start small, sell one thing, freelance 1 hour a week, offer one service online, buy your first $100 in stocks. My first extra stream was laughable. I sold digital workout plans to 3 people. It made me $60, but that $60 felt like $1 million. Because it didn't come from a boss, it came from me. And that feeling of owning the source of your own income, that's freedom. Because when one stream slows down, you've got backups. You're not stuck. You're not desperate. You're anti-fragile. Most people spend 40 hours a week building someone else's dream and then tell themselves they're too tired to build their own. That's the trap. But the moment you start adding streams, no matter how small, you shift from survival mode to creation mode. And that's where wealth lives. Don't stand on one leg in a storm. Build a financial table that can't be shaken. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many years did you spend in school learning to work for money? And how many days have you spent learning how money actually works? See, formal education teaches you how to earn a living, but self-education teaches you how to build a fortune. And the 3%, they don't stop learning when the diploma comes. They start. They understand that wealth is not a degree, it's a mindset. A daily investment into how you think, not just what you do. Jim Rohn said it best. If you want to be wealthy, study wealth. Not just work harder, not just hustle longer. Study wealth. Study how money moves. Study what the wealthy do. Study habits, psychology, tax, investing, leverage, systems. Because wealth isn't hidden, it's just unfamiliar. Most people spend hours scrolling, streaming, swiping, but claim they have no time to read, no time to think, no time to learn. Let me break it down. Your mind is like soil. What you plant grows. You fill it with junk food, distractions, gossip, drama, you grow confusion. But you feed it with wisdom, strategy, truth, you grow power. I started with 10 minutes a day. That's it. A podcast, a page from a book, a video breakdown of a financial concept. At first it felt pointless. But over time, my vocabulary changed. My beliefs shifted. And that shift changed my behavior. Self-education is how you rewire your operating system. And once your internal software changes, your external results can't stay the same. That's why the 3% always ask, what did I learn today that makes me more valuable tomorrow? Because knowledge compounds, just like money. And here's the secret. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know more than the average. And apply a mobile classroom. Turn your phone into a university. Turn your habits into assets. Because the difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise isn't money. It's what they do with their mind when nobody's watching. Let me be brutally honest with you. A goal that lives only in your head is just a wish. And the 97%, they live in a cloud of wishes. I want more money. I want freedom. I want to travel. But they never write it down, never give it a deadline, never assign a number, a date, or a reason. You wouldn't jump in a car and just hope to arrive somewhere, right? You need a destination. You need a GPS. You need to say, I'm going there by then, because it matters. The 3% understand this deeply. They don't just dream, they define. Goals. There's no telling what you can do when you get inspired by them. There's no telling what you can do when you believe in them. And there's no telling what will happen when you act upon them. Jim Rohn. When I first wrote down my financial goals, not just in my mind, but with a pen, everything shifted. Suddenly, my daily actions had purpose. Every yes or no became clearer, because it either moved me closer to that number or pushed me further away. It wasn't about wishing anymore. It was about warrior-level focus. You want to be rich? Write it down. How much? By when? Why? Not a vague more money, but I will have $20,000 saved by June 1st so I can take my family out of survival mode and into freedom. That's a statement. That's a weapon. And when you tie your goals to emotion, to your kids, your legacy, your pain, your pride, you'll stop making excuses and start making moves. Now here's the next step. Break that big goal down. Monthly, weekly, daily. You don't climb Everest in one leap. You climb it one step at a time. $10 saved today. One sales call tomorrow. One expense cut this week. Every step builds belief. And belief builds action. And action builds wealth. Review your goals every morning. Let them reprogram your brain. Let them remind you of who you are and where you're headed. Because without clarity, your mind will chase distractions. But with clarity, your mind becomes a laser. And lasers cut through anything. There's something most people don't understand about wealth. It multiplies when you share it. Not just the money, but the mindset, the knowledge, the principles that built it. The 3% don't just build income, they build legacy. Because they know if your success dies with you, you weren't wealthy, you were just rich and alone. I'll tell you when I truly felt rich. It wasn't when I hit a financial goal. It was when I explained the pay yourself first principle to my little brother and saw him do it. When I helped a friend create her first emergency fund and she cried, not because it was a lot of money, but because it was the first time she felt in control. That's wealth. That's impact. That's power, shame, fear, confusion. They suffer in silence and pass that silence to their kids. But the 3%, they turn financial wisdom into family tradition. They speak openly. They teach. They mentor. They write down their principles. They invite others in. If you want to build a strong family, build strong values. And money management is one of the strongest. Start with your circle, your partner, your kids, your community. Teach them what you're learning. Even if you're just one step ahead, share that one step. Because every time you say it out loud, you own it deeper. You make it real. You build accountability. You expand the ripple. Don't hoard your breakthroughs, broadcast them. Don't just celebrate wins in silence. Let others see what's possible. You never know who's listening. You never know whose future is waiting on your courage to speak up. And when you teach what you learn, you don't just build wealth, you build a movement. Because money is temporary, but impact is generational. Here's the final truth, and it's the one most people don't want to hear. If you want to be free tomorrow, you have to say no today. The 97% live for now. They crave the next dopamine hit, the coffee, the gadget, the weekend splurge, the I deserve it moment after a hard day. But the 3%, they know something powerful. Pleasure is easy, freedom is earned. Wealthy people don't deprive themselves forever, but they delay, they wait, they sacrifice what's fleeting for what's lasting. I remember skipping nights out when all my friends were blowing cash. Not because I didn't want to go, but because I knew that $100 wasn't just $100. It was 100 soldiers I could send into battle to buy me freedom later. Think of money like that. Not just paper, not just numbers, but tiny workers, tiny warriors. You can send them to the mall or to the battlefield of compound interest. One fades, one multiplies. Jim Rohn used to say, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. That extra pair of shoes won't remember you. That new iPhone won't pay your rent when you're 60. But the investments you made, the habits you built, the freedom you designed, that will serve you every day of your life. The broke chase relief. The wealthy pursue results. You don't have to become a monk, but you do need to choose. Because every dollar you spend emotionally is a dollar you could have used strategically. And those tiny choices, they decide your future. So the next time you feel that urge to buy, to impress, to indulge, ask yourself, am I buying freedom or am I renting comfort? Because freedom lasts. And comfort? It has a 30-minute half-life. You've made it here. That already puts you ahead of 97% who clicked away. But watching isn't enough. If you want transformation, you need implementation. So here it is. The ritual, the one I promised you in the beginning. The mirror check. 2 minutes. Stand in front of the mirror each morning and ask one question. Are my actions today aligned with the future I say I want? Say it out loud. Because self-deception dies in the mirror. Step 2. Track and tell. 3 minutes. Every night log 3 things. What did I earn? What did I spend? What did I keep? You don't need an app. Use a notebook. A sticky note. Anything. Just build the muscle of clarity. Step 3. Pay yourself first. Choose an amount, even if it's $1, and send it where it serves you. A savings account, an investing app, an envelope under your mattress for now. This is how you tell your subconscious, my future matters. Step 4. Learn one new thing. 5 minutes. Listen to a podcast. Read 2 pages of a book. Watch a video that teaches wealth. Why? Because knowledge is leverage, and most people are unarmed. Step 5. Speak it forward. 2 minutes. Tell someone what you learned. A friend, a partner, a child. Teaching locks it in and turns one insight into legacy. This is your ritual. 5 steps, 15 minutes, every day. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Because the people who win with money aren't the smartest. They're the most intentional. So here's your challenge. Start this ritual tonight. Right now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, then come back to this video in 30 days and tell me what changed. Because something will. I guarantee it. If this video shook something inside you, if it gave you clarity, power, or permission, then prove to yourself that you're done being part of the 97%. Like this video, leave a comment with the words, I'm in, and share it with someone who needs it just as much as you did. Let's start a movement, not of noise, but of action. The 3% isn't a club, it's a decision, and you just made it.